let me suggest that there may be a decline in participation and that it may not be to the benefit of the American people. I want to suggest that regardless of what happened to me personally, that there have been so many glitches in the passage and implementation of Obamacare that have real-life consequences on people's lives. And the so-called glibness that has been referenced today have direct consequences for real American people. So get over your damn glibness.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and joining us now is that very brave Congresswoman Cynthia Lummis, a Republican from the great state of Wyoming, House Oversight and Government Reform Committee member. Congresswoman, our deepest sympathies to you, and I got to say, though, your husband must have been very proud of you yesterday.
Well, I had sat for a couple hours listening to Jonathan Gruber give this tortured, canned, memorized, semi-apology for his earlier multiple statements about the stupidity of the American people, and they duped us. And now that has all been revealed, the way that Americans were duped, he comes before Congress and said, well, I was glib and I was trying to build myself up by tearing other people down. Well, when he gave that same statement over and over and over, it was so canned and so memorized and so insincere that I just had had enough. Yeah,
well, I don't blame you. I certainly don't blame you. And what do you think was accomplished? I mean, do you think, even the Democrats on the committee even scoured Gruber. I don't know how sincere that was. I'd love to hear what you have to think about that. But, I mean, do the American people realize how duped they were, or how nefarious this whole healthcare thing was?
Well, they may be now starting to understand it. The fact that the people who contrived Obamacare were trying to get it scored by the Congressional Budget Office as not being a tax, and then took it to the Supreme Court and alleged it was a tax, so it would be determined to be constitutional, not only was a political sleight of hand, but it was a political sleight of hand by design. And Jonathan Gruber was simply arrogant enough to be the person who bragged openly about how duped the American people were because of our own stupidity and because of our lack of understanding of basic economics. If that's how Obamacare came to be adopted, shame on everyone who voted for it.
And Congresswoman, I got to tell you, Harry Reid today said we never recovered from the rollout of Obamacare. He said he should have seen it coming. But, it was Chuck Schumer who said just the other day that, they never should have concentrated on Obamacare. He said specifically that just 5% of registered voters in the United States lacked health insurance before implementation of the law. You don't tear everything up and make life difficult for the entire population because you want to help 5%. So that's a huge admission on his part, is it not?
It is a huge admission. And if you'll recall, when you got back to the election, then candidate Obama said that at his first opportunity, he would engage in meaningful immigration reform. So when they had the House, the Senate, and the White House in Democratic hands, he chose to ignore immigration reform. Now he passes an executive order against constitutional parameters, and is blaming his decision to
On the Republicans in the House, yeah.
For not addressing the
when
issue.
he had 2 years, and he quotes scripture. That's how important it is to him. But it wasn't important enough 2 years when he had, as you pointed out, his first 2 years. Let me ask you before we run out of time, Congresswoman, the deal, the budget deal. A lot of conservatives in your party are saying Boehner and McConnell caved. This wasn't what the election was about. You're funding everything Obama wants, including what you described here in the amnesty executive order.
Well, we will be addressing, even if this funding bill passes, we'll be addressing the Department of Homeland Security again in February, and that will be a time when some very serious constraints will be placed on the president and his illegal amnesty decision.
And you think that Boehner, for instance, who won't do that now, doesn't want that fight now? According to Michelle Bachmann, McConnell and Boehner don't want a fight. You think he'll be up for that fight in February?
He says he will. Let's hold him to it.
Okay, fair enough. Congresswoman, again, our deepest sympathies to you, and keep up the fight and keep up the good job. I hope you'll come back.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Take care. No, my pleasure. What a brave woman, and a great woman serving our country and telling it like it is on all fronts. And let's hope she's right about Boehner, and let's hope that he won't backtrack. Although, once you open the spigot, as they say, how do you then turn it off? Because then the argument on the other side from Obama becomes, well, you gave us the money before. What are you changing your mind now? If you stick from the beginning and just be consistent, it makes your argument all the more palatable. Okay, folks, we're coming back. Steve Malzberg Show. Don't go away.
When Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam, fell on the 30th of April, 1975, America's long conflict there may have ended, but it took decades for the nation to heal its wounds. In 1973, President Nixon orchestrated the Paris Peace Accords, bringing to an end America's involvement in the Vietnam War. America's POWs returned home, and all seemed well, until March of 1975. When Senator Ted Kennedy led Congress in cutting off all aid to South Vietnam. Within weeks, Communist North Vietnam reneged on the peace accords and invaded their neighbors to the south. Without U.S. support, South Vietnam fell to the Communists, and throughout South Vietnam, a bloodbath ensued as hundreds of thousands of South Vietnamese who had backed the U.S. were massacred. Empowered by the events in Vietnam, Communists in Laos and Cambodia soon toppled their pro-Western regimes, and Southeast Asia became a killing field, with the genocide of an additional 2 million people. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.